Hi, welcome to Coffee with Kim. And my name is Kim Bassett, and I am your host. We are in day one of our mentor series. And this is a little bit different because I have learned from mentors. Jill Bauer will be on later in the week, but sometimes things don't always go the way we planned. And today was one of those days. Sometimes the internet's not going to work. Sometimes tech's not going to work. And we're in one of those days. And so what I have decided to do is take when wasn't working very well, and I want you to see the full impact of Ed Blunt. So what I have decided to do is to edit all of what I had done before, or during the live show, the taping, and then we got off and we went on Zoom and we did another recording, and it worked. So I'm going to be doing a little bit different than you've ever seen before in Coffee with Kim, and we're going to be cutting it up and putting it all together. But I want to thank Ed, and I want to thank those of you that showed up live. I am so grateful for the community that I have here, for the people who come on as guests who are making a difference in so many lives. And for those of you that watch, looking for that thing, that inspiration, that thing that you need to hear, or a person you need to reach out to get done with what you want to do, what you do and love and want in this world. So again, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed today. Welcome to day one of our series of the gift and power of a mentor. Coming to us from Ohio is Ed Blunt. Ed is a father, author, and mentor of enormous knowledge, experience, and reach globally. As a graduate from Yale, Morehouse, Oxford, and St. Petersburg Drama Academy in Russia, he has shared the stage with award-winning giants like Denzel Washington, Jodie Foster, Spike Lee, Brian Grazer, and Mary J. Blige. In business, Ed built a sales force of 140,000 representatives in multiple countries, yielding over $350 million in revenue. As a professional speaker, communication coach, and corporate trainer, Ed has dedicated over 30,000 hours to studying, practicing, and implementing his craft while training and keynoting to more than 500,000 participants. Ed says, "My pathway to this point is unlike any other in this space and provides me an incredibly unique and experienced vantage point to dramatically impact those I'm speaking and training." It is my honor to welcome Ed to Coffee with Kim. All right.
Hey, that was awesome. Thank you.
You know, I knew about 50%, right? When you sent me that pages and pages of accomplishments, but there's a lot there that I did not know. I suspected, but I just want to introduce everyone to this man. What was it, about 6-7 years ago, you came into Las Vegas, and a mutual acquaintance of ours. And I was really at a crossroads in my life. And I remember sitting down to dinner with you once, and I am not that same person. As a result of you putting me back on my path, and personal development was a big part of that. I'm going to just list a few things here. Personal development, I was started to do, and then I stopped because I let other people's noise and opinions of me affect me. You got me out of that. 98% versus the 2%. No excuses. Man, I use that, no excuses, all the time. Your voice is still in my head 7 years later. Fly with the eagles, not with the pigeons. You get your mind right. Leadership, can't stop, won't stop. And create and do more. And the reason I did this whole mentorship thing is because my dad was my first mentor. And he passed away 10 years ago. And it was shortly after I met you. And he was kind of my rock. And I was kind of looking for that again. And I'd never had a physical mentor before. And so I wanted to bring you on. I know we haven't, we see each other on social media, we message every once in a while, but this is the first time, I wanted to be able to, our schedules are such, right, that we couldn't connect. So we're connecting in here live for the first time in many years. But I wanted to celebrate you and honor you. And I wanted the world, not that doesn't already, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people already know you and follow you, but I wanted them to know that where I started from. So tell them a little bit about you.
Well, I'm honored to be here. You can. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, I appreciate you asking me and having me on to share this platform, and just sharing a little bit of what's taken place with you since the last time we saw each other. A lot of times none of us really know how we can impact another human being, which is why I really believe it's important to live each day with an intention to positively affect someone's space. Be anybody. Could be your neighbor, could be someone working at the post office, in line at the grocery store. Reach out to Facebook and send a message of encouragement, just little tiny things, because you never know where the person is at in there. But for whatever reason, we came into each other's pathways at a time that we were supposed to connect, and a lot of great things came from that. And that's one of the reasons why we've maintained our connection over the years. Even if it's just through social media and checking in every once in a while, we've maintained the connection. In terms of my story is pretty, it's simple. It's definitely unique because I started as an actor and entertainer. My life was dedicated to that: theater, film, television, Broadway. And I moved into speaking under the mentorship of Mr. Les Brown, who to this day is one of my closest friends. And he's the one that really pushed me on the path of speaking and teaching and training. And that completely transformed my entire journey and trajectory. And as I was doing corporate gigs and keynotes and presentations and conferences and starting to travel nationally, internationally as a speaker, I got introduced to business and entrepreneurialism. And I found some people that I could learn from in that space. I transferred my skill set as an artist and a speaker and communicator into that world of building businesses building a business and helping other people build their business.
Yes.
It's a home-based business collective, bringing people together. And that's in my spot because it's the one place where no matter what you do, what your career path is, we all can come together under a common bond and a common vision and a common goal, help each other get better. And there's accountability. There are measurables and results that we can look at in terms of our progress. And it's lifelong relationships that come out of it when you do it the right way. So that's kind of the summary of how I got to this space right now.
Yeah. Tell us about, because I watch you, you're in network marketing. A lot of people, there's, different stigmas about it, right? But I've watched how you have just made it a whole different ball game for people.
Yeah, you're right about some of the stigma and miseducation around network marketing. And like any arena that you enter into, there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. There's going to be ugly. So you can go into, if I wanted to be a professional boxer, you'd be like, man, that's I don't know, business, and there's a lot of people doing you dirty, but that doesn't negate the fact that I have a song to sing and there's an audience that may want to hear it, right?
Right.
So there's no arena that doesn't have those things. With network marketing, because it's not taught, because people are not exposed to it on a mass scale, because the other things that I just mentioned, there's promotion, there are networks that get paid, there's advertising that benefits. If I'm in music, same thing, promotion, networks, advertising, benefit. Well, because network marketing is the only business model that it's direct. So Ed goes to Kim, shares a product or an idea or a service. Kim says yes. Ed gets paid. Ed has Kim get paid. Well, see, there's no advertising in that. No one else can benefit from it. And when you're doing something that is literally generating over $80 billion a year, I'm sorry, $180 billion a year, when you're doing something and it has those type of numbers and other people cannot stick their hands in and get a piece of the pie, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to try to discredit it, or they're going to completely ignore it because they can't benefit from it. So one of the things that I really work to do is obviously educate people about the network marketing industry, but more importantly, the way that I build the business and the way that I develop leaders and build culture, give people a real strong sense of themselves. They feel safe, they feel confident, they feel protected, taken care of, and they know that no matter what, if they stay plugged in, they're going to have success, they're going to grow, they're going to become a better version of themselves. Financially speaking, it's up to you, in terms of the money you want to make, but at least people have a fair and equal opportunity, give themselves a dramatic pay raise. If that's something that they really want, they can actually do it here, as opposed to my friends, you know some of them. Ellen would be one that's off the top of my head. Phenomenal principal in education her entire life, has gone 10
Mhm.
years without a raise. Like, that's ridiculous. So when I hear
Yeah.
stories like that, and I know people that I talk to today, they overworked and under, we can give them a better way.
Right. So what do we're talking about the gift and the power. So a mentor, like, and that's where it came from for me, is the gift and the power, right? And starting, you know, I had, mentors online, right? I knew who Les Brown was. I knew who Jim Rohn was. I got their programs. I listened to their videos and stuff. But there's something that happens when you have a connection, like when I had that connection with you, right? The things you taught me, I still
Mhm.
hear your voice in my head. I still, it penetrated in a different way. So can you talk about, you talked about Les, it was a mentor, and maybe some of the other mentors that had, that was that gift, that was that power, and why you need to find someone like that versus, yeah, it's good to have all
I
the other
believe
stuff.
about your come from. So the most important mentor figure in my life, the most influential, would be Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr. And he's been a second father to me. I grew up in his home, and he would take me, and my brother is his son. He and I have the exact same birthday. I was born about an hour and a half before he was, and been attached at the hip since we were 6 years old. So having that person as a direct influence, who's also a national figure. So he was a part of. He was Jimmy Carter's pastor. He was on that in that administration.
Hmm.
He is someone that, as I was growing, Sharpton, Andrew Young, and Jesse Jackson. These were people that would come to the house, and like it was just normal. But I didn't know who they were at the time. I just knew there's a lot of hoopla around it. And I remember, Kim, I love looking at people in their private life, and then I like to see how they show up in their public life. And with Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr., there's never, ever been any disparity between how he shows up in public and how he shows up in private. One of the most God centered, loving, integrity based, pioneering civil rights leaders, religious scholars, and pastors that I've ever encountered in my entire life. And so he taught me how to be congruent and in alignment. Now, I haven't succeeded as much as he has. I made a lot of mistakes, and I was doing a lot of younger, and he has been steadfast in his path. And to demonstrate my point, he was retiring, and so we had a banquet to recognize his retirement. And he never told me this. This is how he rolls. He never told me this. He says, so we have the retirement. He said, hey, someone flew in because they wanted to give Pastor Moss some love. And Oprah had flown in on her private jet, and she spoke for almost 30 minutes on how he has been her pastor and how he was has been and is such a profound influence on his life.
If you're part of something that he sent to me.
Let me tell you something, you all. Don't live in regret. Give this thing what you have to give it, and do it at 100%. I don't care if it's an hour a day or 10 hours a day, but give what you got, because it deserves that and more. Don't live with the ghosts of unfulfilled promise, but go forward in the capacity of what you can produce and create in this life that will carry on until the next. Let's go!
All you need to do is give him a glimpse, and once he sees it, then he's going to take it to the next level.
Yes.
And that's what the name of the game of life is, that you give me everything that you have plus what I have, I'm going to take it to the next level. So what I've done is only a tip of the iceberg of what Ed is going to do. And what Mr. Washington gave me, plus what I have, I've taken it to a level he will never take it. And what I've given Ed, he's going to take it to a level that I will never take it. And it's a seesaw relationship.
You start your day, or you start your night. You live by these words. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, and all that you dream for it, all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, if you gladly fret for it and plan for it, and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity. If stern pertinacity is either poverty, famine, thought, sickness, or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim, you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, you'll get it. Let's go!
All right. You still with me? I just want to just express my profound gratitude for this man. And I wanted to honor him. And I want, as I'm going to honor and celebrate the rest of the people that are going to be on this week, because it's definitely impacted my life. I know the hundreds of thousands of people, these people have also impacted other people's lives. And I going to share with you, we're going to find another time that we can speak with Ed, because his coming from his heart and coming from his experience is so incredibly powerful. And I want to thank him for taking the time to do this. And sometimes we just have technology, and sometimes things happen like this. But there's always a way around it. There's always a way to fix it. So as mentors, we all have a mentor, and we all are mentors in some way to someone, even sometimes to ourselves. And so at this time, I want to give thanks and honor to Ed, and we will do a recording and I'll just put it together with the rest of this. So you guys have an amazing day. Thank you. And I'm so excited for this week. Please set aside just, a half hour to an hour each day to be able to participate in this mentor series.
I like that backdrop.
Thank you.
That's nice. That's really nice.
Thanks. Oh, I mean, I wanted to honor and celebrate you because, when I go back and I look, I've done a lot of evaluation in the last couple of years. And when I really sat down and looked at my life and who really had the biggest impact, right? And who was someone that I could reach out to, and it was you, right?
Wow.
You started that process. Back, I had given up on myself. I had given up on my dreams. I'd given up on personal development.
Mm.
And you being that accountability and like just, you made sure we were on those calls. There was a motivation. Yes, you are a huge motivator. You are a powerful speaker, but you give us tools
Mm-hmm.
to use.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. I appreciate you sharing it, because it's you can get confirmation and you get information from feedback, so that really helps, because it helps me to get better in the things that I'm doing. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. And there's a, I still remember, us going to, eating in that, little restaurant down here in downtown Summerlin. And I had no idea at that time, the greatness that was, I knew you were a great person, but the experience and the global reach and all of that stuff that comes before to make you who you are, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes shudder at, I was trying to prove my worthiness, but I didn't have that at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel the worthiness.
Yeah. So what did you do? What steps were you taking to move along, to progress?
I kept the personal development going, right? I kept the personal development going. I kept searching for the pieces, and I just kept finding there were just pieces missing, right? And I think there were some hard things that happened with my children, with my relationships, and it knocked me on my back. And
What do you mean?
Just with marriage, right? With relationships with my children and how I showed up, right? And every year since, even before you, but kind of right around that area at that time, I was going through and making a word for the year. I decided to write down, you'd always have us write, right? Write down what we needed to do and what we wanted. And I got back into the habit. All the habits that I had, I just were gone, right? They just went away. And getting back and involved with someone who's like, there's no excuses, right? I was the biggest excuse person, always an excuse. There was no excuses anymore, right? The buck stopped with me. I had to be responsible for myself. I could not control anyone else around me. I had to be the one that controls myself. And if people say things, it's only because out of fear, right? And so those are, I wanted to be better. I wanted to, have that influence that I did when I was a teacher back in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was doing personal development and I was sharing with the kids what I was learning and sharing with others. But when I allowed myself to be small, that was my control.
Mm.
I have control
Safe,
over that.
comfortable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary stepping out. I never thought I'd have a show. I never thought my brother and I had a business here in Las Vegas and in Southern California and up in the Northwest. It was a marketing business the last 3 years.
Okay.
And that got me back into the saddle of, okay, how am I going to show up? How am I going to connect with people? How, and I had to get back into personal development. And I kind of played around with it and I had a few friends, but it had to get to the point where there was no more excuses and I had to do this. And then I found some other mentors, learned some more things, had some more programs, and went through a masterclass with Joel Bauer. And I found that this is what I love. And I did it because of a dream I had, literally a dream. I saw the whole thing. I called somebody up and I said, am I crazy? And they said, no, go for it. So I just stepped out into this because I saw so many people that had a platform and had a voice, and they all just helped each other, right? And I still kind of see that out there in that world.
Yeah.
And I started meeting these people all over the globe, in Singapore, in Australia, and in Europe, and in South America, Canada, here. And they have what they do love and want, and knowing and not being celebrated, not having a voice. Do I have a large platform right now? Not necessarily, but it's growing, and I'm consistent, I'm committed, and a community, the 3 C's.
That's good. That's good. That's really good.
And I still watch you, and people watch us, and I am learning that. You know, you talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago, but I watch you. I still learn from you.
Well, listen, I'll take you where I can get it. You gotta take care of what you have. Like, if you don't do well and do right by what you have, you're not going to make room for more, or you're just kind of depending upon luck. So it doesn't matter if it's a room of 5 people to 5,000. You know, you bring the same level of intention, energy, focus, and commitment. And if you live by that principle, you're not going to make a wrong turn. You know, you'll make mistakes, but you're not going to make a wrong turn.
I believe that. I truly believe that. And I've got some things coming out in the next few months, and it's exciting, it's scary, but one thing I've learned, it's always inside of us, right? When I went on a little trip down south, and I was watching Oprah's interviews. I was watching Larry King interviews, people who interview other people, right? I want to learn from them. And I watched them and I listened to them, and I had the biggest aha moment. And that was that I love what I do so much because of what I learned from other people. And that's what they said. Oprah's like, she goes, it's not about me, but it's what I am learning from other people.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
So what have you learned the last few years? What's your biggest aha moments?
I've learned to protect the downside. That's probably the biggest takeaway, because if, you know, being in business, I was really, really fortunate to find 3 different play spaces that I truly loved and have a blast being in, and having varying degrees of success in each of those fields. So being a full-time working actor in New York City, you couldn't tell me nothing. Like, I was on top of the world. And I thought that was going to be my life. And then mustering up the courage to move into the world of speaking and really experiencing how I could impact another human being, it absolutely blew my mind. I went to North Carolina. It's one of my very first corporate engagements, and it was big. It was for a company that had gone from 300 million to 4 billion.
Wow.
And they wanted me to come and train their leaders on how to deal with change. And so I remember a couple of things happened. One is I went in, was contracted to come in on a Wednesday to speak for an hour. And I didn't know anything about my self-worth or my value. I didn't know anything about that. So they're the ones that came to me with a quote. and my very first paid speaking engagement, I made $150. It was for a startup credit card company. And I was so excited to get paid. Like, I was so excited. I was like, this is awesome. Because I wasn't, I had no bearings or anything.
Yeah.
So I thought, man, if I do this 10 times a week, I can make $1,000 a week. Well, the second engagement paid me $11,500 for the same hour. And I was like, what? It's like, holy crap. And I couldn't get my head around it. So I just decided not to think about it and just focus on the task at hand. So I go in on a Wednesday, I do my job, and I leave. And they're having a 3-day conference. I get a call from the regional vice president on Thursday at midnight. It was 11:59. And he says to me, hey, is there any way you can get on a plane and fly back Friday morning? He said, I have a different, bigger group, and it has some of the other people in it. I want you to speak to them. I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, the other speaker was contracted to come in after you for Thursday and Friday. And after Thursday, the leader said, well, we don't want that speaker to come back. We want Ed to come back. So they paid that speaker not to come back, and then paid me another full fee to come back on Friday to speak to this bigger group. And that's what kickstarted, my corporate gig. But in the context of what I was doing during my presentation, and I always stay afterwards, I always do some bonus training. Well, one of the leaders found out that they asked me to they asked me back a bunch of times. That's how I got that, Les Brown's got the platinum speakers. So I'm the only one that's made 100,000 in speaking fees in a month. And the way I was able to do that was because this particular ginormous company kept bringing me back and sending me to different regions, right?
Yep.
So one of the leaders found out that I was going, it might have been South Carolina. And so he got on a plane and flew to that location. And I saw him. And afterwards, I was like, what are you doing here? He said, well, they told me you were going to be here. I had to come see you. And this man came up to me and he said, I just want you to know that what you said, it really forced me to confront a truth that I hadn't shared with anyone else, not even my wife. He said, I was molested as a child, and I've been holding on to that for my entire adult life. And I finally had enough courage to share it with my wife. And I've made a decision that I'm going to tell my story, because there might be somebody that I could help. There might be somebody like me that doesn't have someone that they can relate to. I had no idea. That's not what I went to North Carolina for, right?
Yep.
And so I started to understand the power and the impact that I could have through my words and how I show up in life.
Yeah.
And so being really, really fortunate to find acting and then find speaking, and then I found network marketing. It was like the trifecta, because network marketing gave me a space where I could coach and develop people over a long period of time.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me for an hour, or, come back, 6 months from now and become one of the company favorites, but it's not the same as building relationship and creating, as you talked about. I've been doing daily calls for years, because to me, it's really important to create a sustainable environment where people can continuously grow. And I'm dealing with 10, 15, 20 plus years of people not being exposed to personal development, not being exposed to thinking better of themselves. So I'm not just going to give you an hour. That's not going to do it. You might feel good. You might go and take a little bit of action, but I want to do as much as I can to immerse you in that world. And so network marketing gave me an opportunity to create my own world, to create an environment where people can be well fed spiritually, intellectually, socially, financially, and then grow them and build them up to be bigger, to be better. And I just use the business of network marketing. I use the company that I partner with as a tool. It's like a conduit for me to do all these things to impact people for a very, very, I'm thinking generation. Like I've had people, and this has happened over and over and over again. Their kids will come to me and they'll be like, hey, they know me because they've been listening to me, and the kids are in the room. They see me on the screen, or they hear me on the phone, and the kids are acting on the principles. And all I'm doing is what was done to me. Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr. to this day continues to pour into me because somebody poured into him. Dr. King poured into him. Howard Thurman poured into him. He in turn has been pouring into me. I'm just doing my part. My job is to take what I've been given, because it doesn't originate in me. It's something that comes through me like a channel. But my purpose and my job is to make sure that I positively impact as many people as I possibly can, so that they can in turn do the same. So protecting the downside, Kim, has been the big lesson, because I do the things that I love to do. Money has always been secondary. It's not been first thought in my mind.
Right.
And because of that, I've been careless at times with money. I've not had great respect for money, because it was easy for me to make it, so I didn't really appreciate it. And then when the storms come, if you're not prepared, you're going to find out really quickly how unprepared you were. So,
Yes.
because in my mind, I'm like, well, I have the skills. So like, if I lose it all, I'll just go build it again, which is true. But I didn't have to go through that.
Right.
I could have taken other steps to do a better job of protecting what I had, growing what I had, so that even when the storms do come, I wouldn't feel it the same way. So that was probably the biggest
Wow.
lesson for me.
That's powerful, though. You talked about, the money mindset and those things. Those are the things that I'm working on now, and how to look at it differently. Like you said, respect it, appreciate it. But you also talked about motivation. And I want to share with you something that I still use to this day, because motivation is fleeting. Do you remember you teaching me this? You can go to your event.
Yes.
And you come out and you're like this.
Right.
And then you go home and then it's like this.
That's right.
And then a few days later, you're like this. And then a few days later, a week later, a month later.
Yep.
You remember?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I use this all the time, because although I want to motivate people, I want them to have tools.
Yeah.
Tools, right? And that right there is another Ed. There is so many reasons why I wanted you to honor you and to celebrate you, because of the things that you brought. And when I saw that, and I played that video of Les Brown talking about, Washington, who gave it to him, and then he passed it to you, right?
Yeah.
If I knew Mr. Brown, I would have called him and said, hey, I want you to do, share something. But luckily you shared that video, right? And was able to show, he said right there what it happens, and you pass it. You pass things to me that I'm able to now. I'm creating modules and an online program. Wow. I'm finishing my book. I'm creating some other things, because I'm going to share this video, right? But there's a bigger purpose for all of this. And I want people to get out of their own way. I was in my way too long. I'll be 55 on Thursday.
Birthday's coming up.
Yep, we have birthdays really close to each other.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
And so I wanted to, I want my children to have this, right? I want my children to have the legacy. I want them to have the tools. But my friend is the one that kicked me in the butt a few years ago and said, no, Kim, everybody needs this. And I had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago at an event here in Las Vegas, and I brought a gift for everyone. And it was my friend, two friends that are putting this, it was a group of 80 women that showed up. And they said, we want you to get up and speak and share a little bit about your story. I spoke maybe 3 minutes, and I didn't think really what I said was very impactful, but I had people that afterwards, just like you just explained your experience, where the impact was there. And we all have a story, all of us.
Yes.
And we all have the people that have poured into us, and it is our job to pass that along.
Absolutely.
So I was just very grateful. I wanted people to not have the interrupt with tech and everything, to be able to see your heart, because you have an amazing heart and you give so much.
And we're just getting started, my friend.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. How can people, if they want to know about what you're doing, tell us about the company that the network company you're in. Is that something you want to share?
Yeah, I had my very first company. I was with them for 8 years. And when you're new to something, it's like your first love. It's like the romance. Everything is beautiful and the honeymoon lasts forever. And
Yes.
we had about a 7.5-year honeymoon. And then, it all went to pot in about 6 months just because of ownership and some really bad choices. And the next thing you know, companies bankrupt and no longer in existence. And
yeah,
I never anticipated that. Never. That's another aspect of protecting the downside. You can't, as much as you would like for something to last forever, the reality is that most companies will not. They just won't.
yeah.
So you have to be prepared for that, not in a morbid, negative way, but just in a practical, common sense kind of way. And I needed, I knew that I had to find another place, but I didn't know where I was going to go. And there was like a bridge company that I had some really good relationships with the people in that company, and the owner and CEO was really, really kind to me, and just made it very clear that I could have a place to build, and the checks would be paid on time and all of that. And so, long story short, I knew that I had to keep getting people paid. So I had this company that I was with temporarily. I was able to get people paid. It wasn't a product that I was super excited about, but it was just, it was kind of like, this is the best we got right now. So we have to, until we figure out what we're going to do. And then during that time, a good friend of mine actually started a company. And I always said that if you ever decide to do a company, I'll do it, just because it's you. Because this friend happens to be the number one income earner in the world in network marketing. He's a record breaker and a history maker. And there's a really great periodical. It's called Networking Times. And they document and share stories of network marketers from around the world. And the editor of the magazine was asked, hey, who would you say, of all the years of doing this magazine and talking to top income earners and all these different companies around the world, who would you say is the most influential or the most impactful? She immediately said Holton Buggs. And they said, why? They said, because when we talk to other top income earners and top leaders, his name comes up more than anyone else as the person that influenced them the most. And so for me, I've always had a really good knack and instinct for identifying who is the best in the world. Because if I'm going to put myself into something and next to something, I want to do it with the best in the world. I was on Broadway with Denzel Washington, and then we did a movie together. Spike Lee is the director of the movie. These are both Oscar winners. These are both history makers.
Yes.
So I've had a pattern of associating and getting very close to people who are the best in the world at what they do. And that's translated very well. Les Brown, my speaking mentor, I think he's the best speaker on the planet. So when Holton said, I'm doing this, and he said, this is what he said, Kim. He's like, I've been doing this for 30 years. He said, the graveyard in network marketing is vast because so many people get started. They don't have the right leadership. They get in with the wrong company, and their dreams go to dust because there's no one really guiding them. He said, people are not the problem. He's like, network marketing is the problem because it's structured in such a way that if you're not an Ed Blunt, that's a A-type personality, or a Kim who is a self-starter, self-motivated, she's gonna get after it. Most people are not wired that way. So a lot of people that come in and they want to have success, they don't have it because they can't. They're not willing to learn to lead, and they don't have it. So he's like, I want to do a company where if you don't want to be an exceptional leader, you can still build an income for yourself. If you don't want to get really good in sales, you can still build an income for yourself. He's like, I'm trying to create a space that can rectify what's been happening in our industry for the last, since I've been in, he said, for 30 years. So I said, man,
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to, how it's going to turn out, but I'm all in, because this is a shot for us to make some history, to do something that's never been done before.
Yeah.
And, so far, so good.
So what does the company do?
So we have multiple verticals. Like, one vertical we have is discounted travel. So we give people access to a technology so that anytime they book travel, wherever they want to go, whatever their preferences are, resorts, cruises, hotels, etc., they can get discounts. The technology is designed to save you money. Now, here's the beauty of it. You don't have to pay for it. We literally just give it to you. But because I gave it to you, I'm the one that gave it to you. Every time you use it and you save money, I earn a 50% commission on whatever you save. So if you save $100 on the hotel, I get a $50 check.
Wow.
And that's a one-time transaction, right? I gave you the technology. You can use it for the rest of your life. So anytime for the rest of your life that you save money, I'm going to get 50% commission on that forever. And I can give this to as many people as I want. The other vertical is called Bill Genius. It literally gets in contact. Who's your cell phone provider?
AT&T.
They will call AT&T and say, listen, Kim is overpaying her bill. We need you to lower the bill, and we're going to negotiate with you, or you're going to probably lose your business. They will take your phone bill from $120 to $100 a month. So now you're saving $240 for the year. Well, guess what?
Wow.
The way we give you the technology, doesn't cost you anything. And then when we get the contract, AT&T has given you a new contract for 12 months, 24 months, whatever. You say, well, okay, I'm saving $240. We split it. You give us $120 because we got your savings, and you keep $120 in additional savings off your bill. So we do that for your like internet, cable, phone, etc. We've had people that have saved literally $1,700 on their cable bill. So and then I get paid every month that you pay your phone bill. I get paid off of the savings because I helped lower your bill, because we know that consumers are paying over $60 billion more than they need to, because nobody ever reads the contracts. Like, you didn't read your phone contract.
Nope.
I didn't read mine. Nobody's going to read that. Well, we have a team of people that specialize. They know it's in the contract, so they know how to negotiate a lower price. That's another vertical. So we have, like I said, multiple verticals that we give people access to, that enables people to generate revenue. You can make money today. Like, we have it so that people can literally make money and have it in their Cash App the same day they get started. People can build a team. They can retail. They just have options. And we have the right leadership and the right guidance. So the reason I said yes to Holton Bugs is because I know he's been at the very, very bottom. He's been with a company for 7 years and never made any money, but he learned. He paid his dues. Yes. And he worked his way up to becoming the #1 income earner in the world. So he's seen everything, good, bad, and ugly, everything in between. So he has great empathy. And most importantly, he does what he says and says what he does. Wow. So if I ask him a question, I never have to think twice about it. I'm never looking over my shoulder, Kim, saying, I wonder if they know what they're doing. I never have to worry about that.
That's so
doesn't
great.
mean we don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean we haven't had, challenges as a new company. It just means that
it's normal.
that I can bring people in and have the peace of mind that they're going to be taken care of. And if there's a problem, it's going to get solved.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, that's all you can ask for, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. I'm going to